So for those of you who don't know, my name is Rosemary Butler, and I have the very great privilege of being the presiding officer here at the National Assembly for Wales. Now, many of you will know that during my time as presiding officer, I have been actively working to reduce the very real barriers that women face in public and professional life in Wales. I launched the Women in Public Life campaign on International Women's Day 2012, and since then I've travelled to all corners of Wales, and we do have corners, seeking the views of women about what can be done to break down the barriers that they face in entering public life, be that as school governors, magistrates, local councillors, or in other public offices. Now, those seminars culminated in a national conference here in November 2012, and it was attended by women from all over Wales and addressed by businesswoman equalities campaigner Zarine Hainsworth. Now, during this time, I introduced a Women in Public Life lecture series because Zarine Hainsworth was so popular that we realised that women in Wales don't get the opportunity to hear really good top-class speakers very often. So we've introduced this Women in Public Life lecture series, which have featured leading females such as human rights campaigner Shami Chakrabarti, leading scientist Baroness Susan Greenfield, and former New Zealand Prime Minister and UN Ambassador Helen Clark. And as I say, the aim of this series of lectures is to provide strong female role models for other women, particularly in fields that are traditionally dominated by men. Now, we are planning an exciting programme for this year too, so keep an eye out for that. Now, in partnership with Women Making a Difference, I also created a well, I didn't, somebody else did it, but I'm just taking the credit. So I'll say we also created a web portal which provides information to women about how to get involved in public office and the latest vacancies, training opportunities, and testimony from inspirational women who have already succeeded in public life. Now, if you haven't registered yet to receive our newsletters, you can do that today by approaching any member of our events team. And those are the people who look particularly harassed. So I don't think they've got uniforms on. Now, the Women in Public Life campaign is addressing a fundamental inequality in our society. The National Assembly has a very good record on the number of women members, and at one point we had more than 50% of Assembly members were women, but we are going backwards. And when you look at the statistics, it is clear, unfortunately, that there's a lot of work to be done to improve the situation. These are figures you all know, but they are worth repeating. Only 5% of council leaders in Wales are women. Only 10% of the chief executives of government-sponsored bodies are women. And only 31% of board members of sponsored bodies are women. Now, the development scheme that we are launching today is the latest addition to our campaign. And its aim is to create opportunities for women to develop the skills and confidence, and importantly confidence, to apply for positions in public life. To deliver the scheme, we're working in partnership with Chwarae Teg, whose long-term commitment to building women's confidence has been quite remarkable, and also with Cardiff Business School. Now, the scheme will provide intense personal development and skills training, one-to-one mentoring support, and role shadowing opportunities at the highest level in public bodies. So who are we looking for? We're looking for women like you from all parts of Wales who are willing to make the transition between managerial positions and their daily jobs, which will mean moving into decision-making positions in public life. But we're also looking for mentors. I'm sure there are a few of you here, and those are people who are already involved in public life or occupy senior positions in the boardroom who are willing to share their experiences. And we're looking for men and women. But it doesn't end there. I'm also going to form a Women in Public Life caucus, which is made up of a representative from each of the political parties here at the Assembly, which will explore good practice and solutions on gender parity in elected representation, an area which we are going backwards in, as I mentioned earlier. Now, we're going to hear from two inspirational women. They're women who've been quite inspirational in what they've done. They're role models, and they will share some of their views on their personal experience in public life. But the point is, these are two ordinary women who have done quite extraordinary things. We have Sophie Howe, who has recently been appointed as the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner in South Wales, and Liz Muser, who took part in a mentoring scheme called Operation Black Vote, and as a result stood as a candidate in the 2011 Assembly elections. Unfortunately, she's not one of my Assembly members. Hopefully that might alter in the future. But before I hand over to Sophie, I would like to conclude my remarks by thanking you all for coming here today. And please remember to leave your name and contact details if you wish to get involved in the scheme, either as a mentor or as a mentee. So I now would like to ask Sophie to come, and then Liz, and then afterwards you can have a nice cup of tea upstairs. Sophie Howe.
Thank you, Rosemary. I'm really pleased to be with you here today, and particularly pleased as I'm clearly amongst a group of some really inspirational women. And I'm delighted to be supporting the Women in Public Life programme launched by an old friend and now a dame no less, Rosemary Butler. I first met Rosemary in a training programme for women which was organised around 1997, which we were both participating in, and which had very similar aims to the programme which she's now launching and sponsoring. And so I'm pleased to see that Rosemary is one of those women who's made it to a senior position and is extending the ladder to the women coming up behind her. Because I think we all need a bit of help along the way, a bit of help to break down the particular barriers that women face in entering public life or getting to senior positions in the workplace. And I've been asked to speak a bit about my journey in this regard. It's probably not been a conventional one. It's been a complicated mixture of a few ounces of being in the right place at the right time, a definite dose of determination, and perhaps a sprinkling of being so young when I started that I probably wasn't quite sure what I was getting myself into. So when I reflect on my journey, I wonder how much of where I've got to now was to do with the fact that I started at age 20 when I decided to stand, or let's say was encouraged to stand, for the council in Cardiff. And this had come as a result of a number of factors, a lifelong interest in politics fostered by my dad, and not wanting to be too political, but I can tell you that I grew up in Ely, one of the most deprived parts of Cardiff, under a Thatcher government, with a dad who was a committed Labour activist. So I'll leave you to work out how my early beliefs were formed. I'd been one of the few from that area who'd broken the mould and had got a place in university to study law and politics. And at the end of my first year, I decided that I'd put the parts of my degree into practice and I'd go and volunteer for Julie Morgan, who was then a newly elected MP in what was then my home patch, Cardiff North. And it was Julie who encouraged me to stand for the council. I say that my age probably had something to do with it, because I guess I was really encouraged by the fact that despite being so young, Julie felt that I was good enough to have a go at something so important. But also, I didn't have the issues that might discourage some women in particular. So how would it fit in with a family? Could I juggle it with my job, and so on? And so in short, I guess alongside that vital encouragement, I felt I didn't really have anything to lose. Well, I didn't at the point of being selected, but shortly after, things changed for me when I found out that just after having become a candidate, which was a bit of a surprise in itself that I had actually managed to get selected, I was in my final year of university and I found out that I was pregnant. So, not an ideal scenario all round. And I must admit, I thought about pulling out. How was I going to manage a baby, let alone the prospect of taking on a really challenging role? But I have to say, the reactions that I had at that time, both positive and negative, made me not only determined to win the seat, but do a bloody good job of making a difference if I got there. So on the positive side, the public actually responded to me incredibly positively. And I think that this is something that we should all reflect on when we're thinking about whether to put ourselves forward for roles in public life. Women make up over 50% of the public. They've been through pregnancy, they have families, they do the same juggling as you or I, and they want to be represented by people like them who understand their needs. On the negative side, as a daddy's girl, I was faced with a distraught father who was convinced that all his dreams for me were shattered. I'd thrown away my chance of making anything of myself. And actually, in terms of the council elections, I faced an opposition in that council election who were campaigning on the basis that you don't want to vote for that pregnant schoolgirl, do you? And I have to say, I thought, right, I'll show you all. So that combined with a huge amount of support from friends and political allies, I not only won the seat, but of the 4 candidates in my ward who were elected, I actually topped the polls. And by the way, wiped out all bar one of the anti-pregnant schoolgirl campaigners. And it was the best and most challenging thing that I've ever done. I had to learn fast how the system worked, not just the official one, but the unofficial rules that exist within these political environments. I struggled initially in terms of credibility, not just with fellow politicians, but also with the male-dominated ranks of senior officers and others who sought to do business with local councillors. Not because I wasn't bright, in fact I was far better educated than many on the council, but because I was young and because I was a woman. I remember having difficulty for months actually getting into County Hall because the security men wouldn't believe I was a councillor. And one particular occasion, standing as part of the planning committee, being briefed by a developer who focused on my male colleagues when he was quoting the relevant sections of the unitary development plan and turned to me and said, "And you know what, it'll look really pretty too." So the challenges of juggling my new role as a mother with my new role as a public representative, and by then a full-time job, was significant and not without sacrifices. I remember one particular occasion when my son, who was then aged around about 18 months, strung his first sentence together, and he was sitting in the bath, gabbling on his Bob the Builder phone, and he said, "Am I in a meeting, Bob?" he said. But I managed and I developed and I watched those I respected and learned from them. I won the next election despite a whitewash for my party, and I became the deputy leader of my group. From there, I really got to influence big policy. Because we were in a hung council and I manoeuvred a proposition that was impossible for one of the other opposition groups to oppose, I remember keeping the whole council in a budget meeting until 1:30 a.m, until the administration gave in and agreed to extra money to ensure that children had a decent meal in schools that I had campaigned for alongside children and parents across Cardiff. And as I moved on in my career, running the legal department in the Equal Opportunities Commission, gaining huge satisfaction in putting my law degree to use in supporting the cases of women who'd suffered discrimination. And then I was appointed as an advisor on equality in local government to the First Minister, then Rhodri Morgan, and subsequently by Carwyn Jones. And along the way, I had another 3 boys. So the complexity of life, of football runs, of rugby runs, of play dates and homework clubs, of breastfeeding whilst trying to run a campaign to save 2 of your local schools, of delivering speeches on one occasion with baby puke down my back, taking time off and then coming back to work, and eventually last year I was appointed as the first Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner for South Wales, a role which I am absolutely relishing, not least because it gives me the opportunity to tackle some real issues for women: domestic abuse, child sexual exploitation, and the opportunities for women across what has traditionally been a male-dominated workforce. And you may say that I'm taking my bid to effect change for women in this particular workforce one step too far by trialling the maternity policy myself with my 5th child on its way. Finally, we're told that we're having a girl, so that's going to hopefully provide some balance to the testosterone in my house and hopefully eventually assist in delivering my trainee feminist programme to my 4 boys. And the journey has been as rewarding as the destination, particularly as I've not travelled it alone. And there's that quote, we've all heard it, "Behind every successful man, there's a great woman." But I think behind every successful woman, there's a tribe of even greater women. In my case, it's my mum, Nana Linda, a mother-in-law, Nanny Sue, and Auntie Anne, Helen the childminder, Julie, my political mentor, Kate, my you can do it voice, Non, my bitch over a glass of red buddy, Laura, who helps with my cleaning, Bev, who does the football run, and I probably have to give a mention to my husband, Kerry, but seeing as he's got a girl's name, he can probably fit into this category as well. But I've also been fortunate enough to have some great men, and we can't supporting me through my career, and we can't underestimate the importance of this. They do, after all, make up the other 50% of the population, and they're the ones that hold the power. And I can see one of them in the audience here, Frank, who was particularly supportive of me during particular parts of my career, so thank you. So I guess my advice to you as you continue on your journeys towards great things is as follows. If you think you can't do it, you never will. It's okay to feel nervous or apprehensive, but in my experience, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be when you actually get there. I live by a motto, feel the fear and do it anyway. Professionally, that is, because I have to say you'll never get me jumping out of a plane or anything like that. Secondly, put yourself forward for positions and network. Now, you may not get appointed the first time or selected the first time, but people will note that you're interested and they'll think about you for future opportunities. And if you've built the right relationships and contacts through the networking, it'll be even easier next time. Some of the best opportunities that have come up in my life have come out of things that didn't actually work the first time round. Thirdly, don't beat yourself up. We'd all like to think that we're superwomen, but we're not. We are human. So don't feel guilty if you haven't made cakes for the school fair. Ladies, nobody has time for icing when we're trying to change the world. And it's only going to end up in a sticky, gooey mess all over their faces anyway. One of the best pieces of advice I was given recently was by the lovely lady who runs Red Shoe Biz. I'm not sure if she's here today. There she is. Basically, she told me, don't sweat the small stuff. And she put this into the rather bizarre context on a story about matching socks. And I sort of thought, what is she on about? And it was actually bizarre, but very relevant. Basically, she was talking about a client of hers who is a very successful businesswoman who has decided she hasn't got time for unmatched socks or to be matching socks. And I tell you that with a husband and 4 sons to look after, soon to be another one on the way, I had a significant amount of socks to worry about. And I used to spend hours searching for odd socks, freaking out that I had a whole drawer of odd socks, and despite having millions of socks, the kids were wearing odd socks to school. And then I thought, do you know what? She's actually got a point. Who cares about odd socks? Who cares if they're going to school with odd socks on? Who cares if they've got a messy bedroom? And who cares if you haven't made the cakes? Do your best you can in your career and do the best you can by your children. But don't beat yourself up about not getting the small stuff right. Fourthly, don't change who you are to get where you want to be. As women, we have a huge amount of unique and important experience that will help us in a huge range of roles. And the thing that irritates me most is women who feel they have to become more macho than the men to get on. And don't get me wrong, I can see why this happens, but it's doing the women who are coming up behind you a great disservice. I try and live by my rules of staying a woman and making sure that I give opportunities for women coming up behind me. So, for example, key meetings in South Wales Police are no longer held during school holidays. I work hard, long hours, but when I'm at home, but I finish at 3 on a Thursday to do the school and football run. I catch up on my emails from the football pitch sidelines. I tweet about policing, public policy, my latest Zara bargain, and the kids, and I always wear high heels. Now, with many of our officers inheriting the short Welsh man gene, towering over them is actually quite helpful on occasions. And I've actually been quite amused with them being so used to a hierarchical culture, which is generally not involving women at a senior level. They don't really know quite what to do with me. So what I would say, ladies, is use this to your advantage and strike whilst they're off guard. Finally, and most importantly, when you get there, and you will, extend the ladder to those women coming up behind you. In fact, aim to build a staircase with wide enough steps, a few landings along the way, perhaps with a breastfeeding chair on one and free-flowing tea or a glass of wine on the other. If it was hard for you, you have an obligation to make it easier for others, because that's the only way we will truly achieve the type of equality we all want to see in society. So go out there and get it. Take your friends and family with you along the way, and remember, well-behaved women never make history. Diolch.
Hello, it's lovely to be back again. My name's Liz. I was asked to do a speech today. I must say this is not a speech, it's just observations, okay? So here we go. When I received the application form for OBV, it sat on my table for weeks, maybe even months. I had a lot going on. My daughter was getting married, I was working full-time, and I was organising the wedding and working, and I just couldn't get everything done. The deadline for this application to go back was 5 days. So I done it quickly, got down to the post office, paid £9 for the special delivery postage, but I can honestly say it's the best £9 I've ever spent. Set Up Cymru was another mentoring scheme that followed after ours. But today, it's Women into Public Life. Mentees will be paired with companies, with board members of companies and organisations, and maybe have an insight into the legal world. If any women here today is thinking about becoming a mentee, it's good. You've turned up today, so that's the first step done. Understandably, you will be apprehensive when you start, but if you think of what women do naturally, like take any household first thing in the morning, the first 1.5 hours, wake up the children, wash and dress the children, get breakfast done, maybe do the lunch boxes. You've already done the clean PE kit, that's all in the bag waiting because you've done that last night, and you supervised the homework the night before. You're out through the door and arrive at the school on time. That's real organisation, but we just say, oh, it's just something we do. No, we're good at organisation. It's time more women were in boardrooms making the big decisions. We must be honest, if there were more women in the boardrooms, more sensible decisions may be made and not as much money wasted. From my experience, women usually budget and do the household budgeting, sometimes having to rob Peter to pay Paul. That's another skill, and we're good at that. When I first married, my husband thought I was spending too much money. He used to say, "You must be buying diamond rings." I said calmly to him one day, "Okay, you have the purse for 1 month and see if you can do a better job." Fair enough. After 10 days, he gave up. And we've been married 34 years and I'm still doing the budgeting. Just before Christmas, I sat through a court case that lasted 1.5 days. There were 3 legal teams, 3 barristers, 3 solicitors, and 3 paralegals. Only one of them was a woman. During the court case, I took notes and doodled a lot because it did get boring in places. So I looked at the notes the other day, and here's just 2 things that I wrote. Number 1. Why are all these big wigs men? And number 2, education is the key. How do we get the young people from Butetown and other areas to understand a good education means a much better future? Operation Black Vote was launched here at the Assembly in 2007. I was paired with Helen Mary Jones. At the time, she was the AM for Llanelli. On many occasions, we drive down to a constituency office, which took about an hour. We would talk about politics, local, world politics, Westminster, and of course, the Welsh Assembly government. She made me realise at that time that it was possible for the little people to make a change. Not to accept what was on offer, but to get involved, to make a difference and have your say. I remember her saying to me, "Get women in the neighbourhood together," she said, "to make a difference. Take the small steps to make the big change." One evening, 4 women sat in my kitchen discussing the possibility of the play area for the toddlers. We contacted the council. We went through the procedures and all the red tape to achieve the goal. It was daunting, and I did have a sleepless 1 or 2 nights. But about 18 months later, the work started on the toddler play area, and it's been a great hit ever since with the kids. So it's not rocket science, it's just organisation. And women have that in bucket loads. My 8 months as a shadow, I learnt a lot from Helen Mary Jones, and I'm sure she learnt a few things from me. At that time, I remember going to the lottery shop to buy a lottery ticket. And when I was standing in the queue waiting to pay for it, I just thought to myself, even a massive win on the lottery couldn't give me the knowledge that I've gained from this scheme. From that experience, as Rosemary said, I went on to stand for the Assembly election in 2011, the local election in 2012. I've been a board member on the Cardiff and Vale Community Council, Health Community Council, and the chair of Butetown Forum and the secretary of the Residents Association. So if you're here today, representing an organisation and you'd be thinking of becoming a mentor, remember, it's a two-way process. Your mentee will come with fresh eyes and could bring some really good ideas to your business or organisation. And if you're a woman here today thinking of going for it, I would say just do that. Go for it. It will be an experience you'll never forget. And maybe, like me, an experience that will change your life. Thanks.
Well, inspirational and certainly done extraordinary things. So thank you so much. That was really, quite inspiring.
Cynulliad Cenedlaethol Cymru yw'r corff sy'n cael ei ethol yn ddemocrataidd i gynrychioli buddiannau Cymru a'i phobl, i ddeddfu ar gyfer Cymru ac i ddwyn Llywodraeth Cymru i gyfrif. I gael rhagor o wybodaeth ac i ganfod pwy sydd yn eich cynrychioli, ewch i cynulliadcymru.org neu gallwch chi'n dilyn ar Facebook a Twitter. The National Assembly for Wales is the democratically elected body that represents the interests of Wales and its people, makes laws for Wales, and holds the Welsh Government to account. For more information and to find out who represents you, go to assemblywales.org or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.